This movie raises the bar so dramatically for what might be the most besmirched subgenre of film in history: January horror. In Send Help, Rachel McAdams gets stranded with her jerk boss on a desert island after a plane crash, and they find that the power dynamic has completely shifted now that they're in the wild. In the early scenes, we see that she's a high performer at her job, but she's just painfully awkward and not really able to communicate with other people the way that she wants to. And this leads to her being very mistreated by her peers, but especially by her boss, played by Dylanobrien. And in her personal time, what she really finds comfort in is working towards her dream of appearing on the show Survivor. She's put a lot of work into understanding how to survive in the wild, and those are skills that are definitely going to be transferable where she's going. But early on, the hammy dialogue really had me worried about this movie. I didn't think it was unintentionally hammy. Sam Raimi, who directed this film, has a way of very lovingly executing tropes and dialogue and in visual storytelling in a way that makes it apparent that he loves these tropes. He's not doing it accidentally. But I will say, these characters just felt like they were working way too hard to prove who they were to the audience, and like every single sentence out of their mouth. And then the plane crash happens, and I didn't feel very good about the VFX. I didn't think it looked very good. There were certain injuries that happened on the plane that just almost looked cartoonish. But once Rachel McAdams and Dylanobrien's characters are stranded on this island, and the relationship between them starts to devolve into something totally different than it was in The Office, this thing takes off. When we realize that Rachel McAdams is really in her element on this island and is honestly kind of enjoying it, the story is never not interesting after that point, because Dylanobrien's character is suddenly in a very vulnerable position where he's completely depending on her for food, shelter, first aid, everything that he needs to survive. He needs Rachel McAdams to provide, which is unfortunate considering how poorly he treated her early on in the movie. And as an audience member, it's very satisfying to see the tables turn like this, because you just feel a lot of pity for this character in the first act as she's being completely looked over and undervalued. It's great to see her suddenly become essential to this guy's survival, but also she starts to kind of need him a little bit too, because for the first time ever, someone is forced to recognize what she brings to the table, and any appreciation that he shows through his actions or words, and it takes a while to really show itself, she just latches onto, and it's like a life source for her as well. And so the power dynamic between these two as they go through various stages of affection, dependency, rage is just so consistently engaging. And it really does trick you at times. It kind of keeps you on the edge, wondering, does this person actually mean what they're saying, or are they trying to get something? And there were certain moments where I was wrong in what I was thinking these characters were trying to accomplish. Rachel McAdams in this movie is awesome. Every choice that she made worked for me. She is terrifying and hilarious and relatable and kind of worthy of pity all at the same time. We understand her character while at the same time not condoning what she's doing at all. There are so many standout scenes where she is just being so unhinged. But then there's a scene like one that takes place around a campfire with her and Dylan talking about their pasts, where she is just really emotionally going through something as she's recollecting kind of what's added to her being who she is. And it's really touching stuff. She just has to do so much and run a really broad gamut of emotions, and she does it perfectly. I really do think this is some of the best work of her entire career. And O'Brien's really good here as well. He's playing a character who's just irredeemably aggravating, but at a certain point, you do start to sympathize with him a bit, because again, the person he's on this island with is showing some very disturbing behavior. So this movie doesn't give you a cut and dry good and bad look at these people. Once the preliminary satisfaction that you get at seeing him in a subjective position wears off, you do start to worry about his well-being a little bit, just because he's a human. And so much of the story is executed in such a creative way. Sam Raimi is just so good behind the camera. There are so many distinctive choices that he makes with the camera, and it just totally affects the way that we're processing the information that he's giving us. It just gives this thing such an identity and a voice, in spite of the fact that the screenplay itself is not necessarily something that sets it apart from other movies. The way that he visually lays the breadcrumbs for what's going to happen in the third act is just so fun. And he just goes all out with this R rating. The violence here is extremely wince-inducing. There are so many moments that I was genuinely scared of what I was going to see on screen. I've never been a huge fan of gross out humor, and there is some of that here, and so just because of my tendencies, I didn't love that aspect of it, but Raimi's really good at that stuff, so it's going to be for some people. The score from Danny Elfman was fabulous. So often movies like this have scores that really just create some tension scene during the runtime, but this is something that I wouldn't mind listening to outside of the context of the film. It's really good work, and the production just feels so detailed, both when we're in the office and on the island. In the office, we see posters and pictures and various things in people's cubicles that just make them feel so lived in and personal. But once we're on that island, everything looks handcrafted. You buy the survivalist aspects of this film. They really put the work in to show you why Rachel McAdams' character is so good at this. You believe that she could get this done. It's just made with so much love and passion. There's really no drag to it either. Although that first kind of dopey act didn't have me fully bought in, it certainly was not dragging. There were some plot points that strained credibility a lot, and I mean even within the context of a movie that's already pretty out there. There were just some moments where I got a little bit taken out of the experience just for a second. But if you kind of give in to the movie logic, which I encourage, if you spend the money to go see this movie, you should definitely try to have a good time. I don't think it's going to ruin the experience for you. It certainly didn't for me. The ending is a bit questionable. I'm still kind of sorting out how I feel about it. At the very least, I'm mixed on the ending here, but I might even wish that the movie ended like 2 minutes sooner than it actually does. I don't know if we need the coda in this case, and I'm not entirely certain that it fully services the plot or the character's motivations. But it's not terrible, and I can understand that even if this was kind of a studio mandated ending, it is made to work on some level when you go back and look at the first act and think about what's been driving certain characters for the entire runtime. Real quick before I give you my final grade, if you're enjoying this video, if you like honest, transparent film commentary, please do go ahead and click subscribe. I'm covering new releases every single week. Overall, this is like the consummate version of what a movie like this should be. It's got real characters who make consequential decisions that drive the narrative forward, and all of the different elements are working together to maximize the fun. The ever-changing dynamic of these two leads is just outrageously entertaining, and Sam Raimi is just fantastic behind the camera. And for all of these reasons, Send Help gets a B+. I was entirely unmoved by the trailer for this movie. I had next to no anticipation, aside from the fact that Sam Raimi directed it, and I liked the two leads, but it really impressed me. And it's not just good for the kind of movie that it is. I know it's a January horror film, but I genuinely think this is a really good thriller, and I highly recommend you check it out. I think it's just a fantastic time at the movies. I would watch it again in a heartbeat. If you have seen the movie, please do let me know what you thought of it. If you enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you at the movies.